Well, I'm being joined on the program by a professor and agricultural economist, Bola Okuneye. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Now, we do know that for a certainty, Nigeria has, most countries are supposed to eradicate poverty and reduce the hunger level in their countries to a certain level before 2015. It's part of the Millennium Development Goals.
Right.
Now, in its quest to eradicate hunger through food sufficiency, Nigeria has received a prestigious award from the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization.
Right.
Now, is this something to celebrate?
Oh, for sure it is. So many countries, particularly developing countries, are within this group of people not being able to feed themselves and abject poverty, particularly the rural areas, where we have most of the population. That we are being recognized shows that we are moving forward. It's just that agriculture is moving forward in terms of taking care of the people, in terms of providing some elements of food for the people. So it's worthy of being celebrated.
Well, according to the criteria that was actually set out by the United Nations, which the federal government met, was the reduction of number of hungry people, which was like almost by 7 million. We do know that it's another reason to celebrate, but does this number tally with what we see?
The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that it depends on the data that were used. If you use the aggregate data in terms of macroeconomic data, we will say yes. But if you use micro data in terms of grassroots data, I will say no. Now, of course, you know that about 70% of the wealth of this nation is in the hands of just 10% of the people. And the reverse, of course, is the case. And so, if you look at the way forward by various large-scale farmers, various medium-scale farmers, you say that yes, that we have achieved and we are moving forward. But if you now look at the micro and small-scale farmers, you tend to put a question mark. Question mark in the sense that the peasants have not really been shown the way forward in terms of increases in technical changes in their levels of production. And that's the issue of adoption rates and those things. But those who have benefited from FADAMA, those who have benefited from Greek extension services, they have really been able to move forward. But they don't represent the bulk of the farmers. But it's a way to start. Because we know that there be a system on its own that the thing will go down to the grassroots people. And by the time you're able to catch up with the 10 or 20% of the farmers who normally have contact with the various micro and small-scale farmers, then the rapid changes will now be translated into the grassroots and more food will now be on the table of the common man.
So how can we actually now achieve food security in light of all these numbers?
Right. You can achieve food security if, well, in the first place, let me credit the federal government that there's stability in policies for the past 2-3 years. And that means you now concentrate and make sure that you maximize the various programs under the various policies. But some programs have not really been properly taken care of. And it's when those programs are properly taken care of that you can now see that the small and the micro-scale farmers can really benefit. The first is, of course, the issue of microcredit. Microcredit needs to be properly extended to the small and the micro farmers. And one is happy that about $300 million have just been granted to Nigeria, to the federal government, by the World Bank. And how do we now use this? Firstly, you need to think about the youths, to encourage them to go into farming. And that means you need to put in place some basic programs that will attract the youths. And what are the basic problems of agriculture for the youths? The issue of land, the issue of capital, the issue of market and marketing, and of course the issue of technical changes. If those 4 basic constraints are properly tackled, then you will see that more youths will be involved in agriculture.
But then, Professor, we do know for a certainty that
Yes.
apart from all these challenges,
Yes.
we also have the issue of death of infrastructure. We have a lot of obsolete equipment that are still found in some of this processing plants and the rest of it. Now, we have got a lot of intervention from the central bank and most recently like the World Bank, like you've just said.
Yes.
Now, apart from trying to institute programs, what about channeling this monies, these funds, into getting equipment that will help, whether the youths or not, to ensure that they actually actualize what it is that they're doing for the sector?
Yes, we're actually on the same board. We're on the same plane. Because the issue of equipment, the issue of infrastructure within the farm, they affect technical changes. And that's the issue of technology. And what we are saying is that, firstly, let there be more tractors in place. Let there be more training on their use, on their maintenance. Secondly, let there be some small-scale implements that small-scale farmers, that macro-scale farmers can use. Thirdly, we are saying that, okay, when you are giving loans to these youths and to the willing farmers who are adults, what are they going to use the loan for? Of course, the issue of equipment is key. The issue of processing equipment is key.
But not the monies that are being given to these people.
Yes.
Is it supposed to provide? Are they supposed to provide equipment for themselves? They're not supposed to provide equipment for themselves. It is the government's duty to actually do that. So, if they are taking out these loans, they shouldn't really be focusing on actually providing equipment for themselves. Again, when they know that they need to buy seedlings and other crops that they're going to use to cultivate the farm.
No. The issue of equipment should be individualized. Should be, if I'm a farmer, I need to have my own equipment and maintain it. It should be private sector driven. If you say that the government should to provide, at what cost? And how many people will government be able to? Except we have a backup in terms of what type of amount of loan that can be given. What about equipment leasing policies? What about some experts now going around to ensure that these are properly utilized and attention is called for the maintenance of such equipment? And that means that if there can be a cooperative form for the youths, for instance, if a state can provide about 250 hectares, you can have as many as about, say, 100, 120 farmers who may be youths producing only the food crops, only arable crops. And by that, you can then monitor the use of the equipment. You can now say that, there's a problem here, and you maintain it. What I think the government should do is not provision of all these things, but having policies in place, having infrastructures in place. For instance, if Guinness decides to set up a big farm, then the federal and the state government should assist in terms of providing good roads, in terms of providing power, in terms of providing some people that can train the workers. And by that, then the various organizations will be on their own. And they know that they won't bother now getting more money for diesel, for big generators, all those things. Those are the facilities that the government should provide. And that's what's been done in many countries whose agriculture are moving forward.
Well, now let's take a look at, you mentioned the policies.
Yes.
Now, we know that for a certainty, the federal government, the Minister of Agriculture and his team have come up with policies that are geared towards boosting the sector. But
Sure.
have these policies been implemented as quickly as they should be?
Well, in the first place, policies are not meant to be immediately implemented. When there's a policy, it should have a timeline. And that means you need to plan with that policy. For instance, if you say, okay, we want to have about 250 hectares per state, you need to put forward that, okay, where will this be? What are the crops that can be grown there? Who are the people? How do we recruit these people? How do we encourage them? How do we sensitize them? What about the marketing? Which area where will they sell these various facilities? And therefore, it may take some time, and it depends on the type of policy. Some policy can be within 2 months. Some policy can be 1 year. Some policy cannot even be materialized until maybe after 2 years. So it depends on either a short-term policy or it's immediate policy. If it's immediate policy, even with that, before money is released, we still take about 1 or 2 months.
For a sector as critical as agriculture,
yes.
What kind of policies? Should we be looking at short-term, medium-term, or long-term policies for a sector like agriculture?
I will say all. And I will then say that in addition to that, either short-term or medium-term or long-term, that agricultural policies should be that can be rolled over That is, we should have about a 3-year program. We want to do this within the next 3 years. And so budgeting should also be in tune with that. And whatever is not being able to be covered within the first year cannot be rolled over to the second year, provided there is monetary provision for something. So if you say that, policy will just be just for a short term, it has a limitation. It can only cover maybe some livestock, some fisheries, and some few food crops. But on the whole, we should have a long-term perspective plan for agriculture. And I believe that a 3-5-year perspective plan will be ideal for the Nigerian agriculture.
Well, Professor, we'll come back to all of that in just a moment. We'll take a break now on a Business Morning, and when we come back, we're still looking at Nigeria's award for poverty reduction, the agricultural sector, and the way forward. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching the Wednesday edition of Business Morning on Channels Television, and we're looking at Nigeria's award for poverty reduction, the agricultural sector, and the way forward for the Nigerian economy. And I have an agricultural economist with me here on the show, Professor Bola Okuneye, and we'll be looking at this issue in the last 20 minutes or thereabouts. Thank you so much, Professor, for sticking around.
Thank you very much.
Now, Nigeria, we do know, is recognized for its achievement of reducing hunger, along with other 37 other countries. But looking at these other economies and Nigeria, are they as dependent on imported food products as we are?
So many countries have their own take. Of course, Nigeria, we know for sure that about 40% of the various food consumed, particularly the grains, are being imported. In some countries, could be as high as about 60-70%, particularly in Tanzania and in Senegal and some other countries like that. But we must say that it was far, far more than this, say about 5-6 years ago. For Nigeria, and now that we are just about 40-45%, it means that we are moving forward. The issue of food security is to the extent that food will be made available as and when needed, in quality, in quantity, on a regular basis, and so it can either be through importation or can be through local production. But we are saying that, why are you giving credit to farmers in other countries like Thailand, like India, and that's why we are saying that we should be self-sufficient in some food items.
So how can we reduce that trend of having to import from countries like that when we know that we've got as good as they have there?
Yes, it's through the use of the various resources that we have, particularly land resources and labor. We are so lucky, just like China, that we are highly populated. And the land is good, and the weather is good for so many commodities. The issue of rice, wheat, etc., we can really minimize that through intensification in their production. And that will be not only just expanding the land that we are using for the production, but also increasing the productivity of the various